Let's welcome in the first wave of panelists. We still have a couple more guys waiting in the wings. Chuck Cavallera's back with us. Chuck, you're looking like a man who's just been enjoying some sun.
Yes,
Good
sir.
to see you. Thanks for being
Just
back.
call me the Miami Kid, man.
There we go. And right here, Jimmy Himes. Jimmy, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, John.
Mark Pankratz, former D1 basketball player, former assistant coach at the University of Tennessee. Thank you for joining us. And right there, Vince Ferrara. Of course, we can hear you, 99.1, the sports animal, Monday through Friday. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, John.
All right. No Zeigler, no Milic, only 7 scholarship players available. Couldn't afford any foul trouble, which Rick Barnes told them ahead of time. We can't be too aggressive early because we got no bodies to go to. And they did it. They stayed foul-free for the most part. They gave their best effort. You heard what he said their attitude was going into the game. Mark, I'll just start with you. Takeaways from what amounted to a 50-point swing just 2 weeks after Tennessee went to Florida and lost.
Well, Rick Barnes has always built his culture on toughness and defense. And that's one that he's going to put in the memory bank for the rest of his career. He's going to talk about that type of game because it impersonates who he is as a coach. I mean, 34 points in the paint versus their 14. We dominated the inside. We handled them defensively, holding them to such low scoring. The way that we played together. Look, I mean, even Dubar didn't have a good game. But seeing the lights of getting the ball inside to Akbar, what Gainey did, very limited in turnovers. When you don't have your starting point guard who's playing 38 minutes a game, to only have a handful of turnovers, this was a huge culture win at a time that we talked about last week. Maybe not must win, but it's as close as you come to it this time of year.
Well, and you had started getting, national writers were starting to talk about your drop-off on offense, which we'll get into. You had started to fall down the bracket matrix and bracketology lines. You were getting toward the lower end of a 2 seed, egad. But still, after being a number 1 seed for most of the year, getting down there in that 2 or 3 is a drop. Vince, your thoughts on the game?
I think it showed that they've got a lot more upside than what they have shown. They were still a top 10 team in the country, but there was more in the tank that this team could dial and draw from, and that culture, as Mark was talking about, allowed them to bring that out. They played the right way. They got in the paint. They didn't settle for a bunch of three-point shots. They didn't take the bait to shoot threes. I think they played the right way, and even if they missed shots, they were in position because they were moving the defense a little bit better. They were getting in the lane and allowed them to have success. And also showed their versatility. Jordan Gainey, not a natural point guard, but for him to slide in that role, and then Meshack at times, I think it showed that this team has, even though they didn't have a lot of bodies, they can switch roles within a game, and Barnes can shift lineups, which he had to do minute to minute, and it wasn't ideal. I think there was a lot of positives. I think this was their most impressive win of the season. With everything that they had against them and how they rose up in this game.
And you can almost take it, I think, a step further, Vince. I can think you go back to the loss at Florida, you mentioned, John. Was that not the worst road loss Rick Barnes has had at Tennessee? You're ranked number 1 in the country, and you have one of the worst losses ever by a number 1 ranked team. Tennessee felt disrespected by Florida coach doing the Gator chomp with just over a minute to play. You come back. I think it was the best home win Rick Barnes has ever had, and I think your clip showed that. The way they felt the reversal. It certainly wasn't Groundhog Day compared to what happened at Florida. The points in the paint, what did Florida have there?
We'll get to that.
Right, so I mean, it was just, And you hold them to, 24.5% shooting from the field and 14.8 from 3. Great defensive effort for Tennessee. Great second half overall.
You were down. You'd played like 7/8 of that game, and they still had 11 made 2s.
Yeah.
That was it. And they hit a couple of them late, but there were 11 made 2-pointers with like 5 minutes to go in the game. That's pretty good defense. Jimmy, your takeaways.
Well, first off, I want to trademark, we've got enough right here, because that's going to be on T-shirts all over the place. So I want some money for that. Secondly, you did hear Meshack talk about how Florida disrespected them, and we're a tough team, and we don't fall down and play dead for anybody. So I think that was a big part of it, the motivation. And also, and I know this is some consternation for you and a lot of other, basketball is kind of hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
Tennessee in the first half, offensively, was nothing like Tennessee in the second half. Tennessee in the first half shot 24%, 29%. Second half they shoot 52%. In the second
You
half.
didn't see that coming?
I did not see that coming. 4 out of 9 on threes in the second half. They were 15% on threes in the first half. 6 of 6 on free throws second half. 4 out of 9 on free throws in the
Right.
first half. They were just a completely different offensive team. And I thought one of the things Jordan Gainey said at the point, he said, I didn't want it to speed up. I didn't want people to get out of kilter
Right.
a little bit with the offense. But I thought what they did, and they made their first 6 shots of the second
Right.
half, which I think engendered a lot of confidence.
And real quick, John, Okpara, he gets 2 fouls pretty early in the second half, right? To me, early. Barnes could have taken him out. I don't know what he would have done putting in.
Yeah.
But he told Okpara, you cannot get another foul. Okpara didn't. Second half, Okpara scores all 10 of his points, finished with 8 rebounds, 6 on defense. I mean, I thought he was a huge part of it, too.
What changed from first half to second half?
Well, and Vince said the upside. I mean, what if we reverse these games, right? What if we had played Florida and win, and then we play Kentucky? Would we be all having the same optimistic outlook of the team right now?
No, we'd be at the bottom of the roller coaster because they just lost.
Yeah, from the standpoint, what I look at is, yes, I think there's upside because we've got guys that can play better. But at the same time, with this basketball team, we're going to play defense, right? Florida was an anomaly, losing by 30. We're going to play defense. We're going to be tough. The question is, do we continue to play inside out and not rely on the three-pointer? Because if we continue to do that, and that's what we've done for the last couple of years is we've shot in a bunch of threes, if we continue to do that, we're going to be on the roller coaster, and I don't know how much upside we still have. I think we kind of are who we are. If we can bring people down in the mud and play the way that it's slower paced game and we're toughing them, then we got a chance to win. But I'm not there yet.
Spoke to someone this week, you know who you are, had gotten a look at some of Tennessee's charts that they do, and it showed that on most of their threes, it's perimeter passing as opposed to the
Inside
get
out.
it inside and kick it back out. So that is one thing to watch moving forward. We talked about last week, how much have they, did the Auburn game teach them they need to muddy it up? They muddied it up some against Kentucky. They certainly muddied it up yesterday against Florida. The prescription is there. It's just not a very beautiful way to win.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much fans are going to enjoy. 52, 51 a win. I think you're back to where you were 2 years ago. But if you're doing 52, 51 wins in the tournament, nobody cares. They like to get
I
muddy.
think at one point yesterday, from the past couple of games, Tennessee was like 11 of 56 on threes. And then they turned it around and started hitting some of them. And look at 2 of the biggest plays Meshack made to get the kick out, and Gainey hits a 3, and then you make a couple of passes, and Phillips makes the dunk. Those were like 2 of the highlights of the whole game. So at least if you're going to play defense like that, you need to get some points on transition too, right?
Let me put up and speaking of points in transition, this is interesting. I want to show some numbers comparing the first Florida game to the one you saw yesterday. The first game, 43 Tennessee, 73 Florida, obviously lost by 30. Fast break points, they had 22. They had 8 yesterday. So instead of 22-3, a team that likes to get up and down, they got 8 points in fast break yesterday. Points in the paint, you see the flip. It was 14 for Tennessee and 40 for Florida down there. 14 for Florida and 34 for Tennessee here. And then second chance points, 10-3, Tennessee won that at Florida. They lost it 4-19.
Right.
Points in the paint is
Huge
one
flip.
that really stands out.
Right.
And here's the difference where I think Tennessee, because if they can bring people back into the mud, that's different these days, right? 3, 4, 5 years ago, shooting a bunch of threes was different. And so that was something that you had to prepare for that was not the norm. Now everybody shoots a bunch of threes. Everybody's playing up tempo. Now to prepare for Tennessee, if you can bring them in slow pace, play with toughness, be physical, get them to have to guard longer in the shot clock, and then take good shots, not settle for perimeter jump shots, that's going to be different when teams go up against you. That could be a differentiator to get some more wins down the stretch.
Good point. Okay. Hey, and I do want to mention this. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll hold on to it. We'll mention it in the next segment when we come back. Offensive issues have been mounting. Zeigler's knee will now be a concern moving forward. What's the likeliest outcome for this team? If we ended it right here, it sounds like the outcome could be pretty good in the tournament. We're going to give you your say, and then we'll give you our takes next on the Sports Source.